We all learn the 3 R's of reduce, reuse, recycle. This is the waste hierarchy that has been in place for decades. For a whole host of reasons, globally, we've built systems mainly around the last one, recycle. I personally have spent years teaching people, young and old, how to recycle properly. I am even a master recycler composter. I have devoted countless hours since 2007 advocating for recycling and composting in our schools, our community, and our county. But what I've come to understand is we cannot recycle our way out of our waste problem. And we do have a waste problem. In 2018, the US produced over 292 million tons of waste. Roughly half of that ended up in landfills. That same year, over 91% of the plastic waste generated in the US was not recycled. As a matter of fact, of the 7 billion metric tons of plastic waste generated globally so far, less than 10% has been recycled. Even if everyone wanted to recycle, in 2019, only 59% of US households had access to curbside recycling. Despite decades of investment and education around recycling, not enough is collected to outpace our consumption, making it impossible to tackle our unending waste problem with recycling alone. The success of our current system depends on many factors: policy at all levels of government, participation in recycling, proper sorting, haulers able to collect the material and deliver it to sorting facilities. And finally, there have to be buyers for the recycled material, or there is no economic value to the items collected in the first place. So how did we get here? Once upon a time, people used items and ate food that was produced locally. Even once there were stores available, most items were bought in bulk, wrapped in paper or cloth, or put into reusable containers. But as the Industrial Revolution brought innovation in packaging, food and goods began traveling farther and faster. Plastics slowly made their way into grocery stores after World War II, but soon became fully ingrained into everyday life. To illustrate just how quickly plastics infiltrated our lives, in 1939, the US produced 213 million pounds of plastic. Just 6 short years later, in 1945, that amount had ballooned to 818 million pounds. So our addiction to plastics in all its forms and uses is really not that old of a phenomenon. There's no doubt that plastics make life convenient, plastic is virtually indestructible, and it makes life on the go much easier. But we have gone all in on the concept. Now, when one walks through a grocery store, the number of products and the amount of packaging is overwhelming. Every size, shape, and color package imaginable. The problems with plastic begin with production. For the 30 million plastic bags used in the US every year, 12 million barrels of oil are required. And for the 50 billion water bottles Americans purchase each year, roughly 17 million barrels of oil are needed. Conservative estimates equate the yearly production of plastics contributing as much carbon dioxide to the atmosphere as 19 million cars on the road. Here's something to think about. All of the plastic ever manufactured still exists, unless, of course, it was incinerated. I mean, think about that. Your plastic-handled toothbrush from 1973 is still sitting in a landfill somewhere. In fact, all of the plastic-handled toothbrushes ever used are still sitting in landfills. Those landfills started to reach capacity in the 1970s. Recycling was seen as a way to divert products from those landfills, as well as address a growing awareness of the environmental impact of those landfills. But the recycling rate never outpaced our consumption. In 2018, the overall recycling rate in the US was just over 32%. Hence, our inability to recycle our way out of our waste problem. Which brings us to a better model, the circular economy. The circular economy honors the highest and best use of resources, keeping products, materials, and services in circulation for as long as possible. The circular economy is defined by 3 principles: design out waste and pollution, circulate products and materials, and regenerate nature. A circular economy is one in which we define the components of the items we use as resources, where the things we build and use can be disassembled and rebuilt, thereby reducing our reliance on new input materials and the production of waste. The circular economy gives us the power to grow prosperity, jobs, and resilience while cutting greenhouse gas emissions, waste, and pollution. The circular economy begins with design. The systems we live in were all at one point designed: transportation, housing, food, etc. Historically, a missing component to those designs was the consideration of waste. We currently operate in a take, make, waste, linear economy. By contrast, a circular economy takes the entire life cycle of a product into consideration: the extraction of resources for creation, packaging, shipping, and end-of-life considerations. Today, the production of goods and food contribute to 45% of global greenhouse gas emissions. The clothing industry represents an enormous issue in our current linear economy. We have never produced more clothes nor worn them less. We've all fallen victim to the ubiquitous advertising that convinces us we must purchase this season's latest trend and rid our closets of last season's terribly out-of-style clothing. But as a result, every second, the equivalent of a garbage truckload full of clothing is either burned or buried in a landfill. How about we rethink our ideas about owning things? There are already companies that will rent you a gown, a handbag, a tuxedo. This is a great idea, especially for those items you know you won't use long term. What about those electronics we all purchase and then repurchase as soon as the newest model comes out? Gerrard Street is a company that has pioneered a subscription model for its modular headphones. Using a modular, standardized design allows for 85% of its components to be reused, meaning fewer virgin materials are needed for the creation of new headphones. And the subscription model allows Gerrard Street to recover and recycle headphones at the end of life, thus creating a circular model. Food waste represents another huge issue. We all grocery shop with the very best of intentions, and yet 1/3 of all food produced goes to waste. A company addressing the food waste issue using circular principles is Do Good Foods. They collect unused food from grocery stores and food banks and turn that into animal feed for chickens. They then sell those chickens for human consumption. The company says that each poultry product diverts 4 pounds of food waste from being sent to a landfill, avoiding the generation of 3 pounds of greenhouse gases. What about that coffee you order each morning? Each single-use coffee cup is used for an average of 13 minutes before being discarded. 2.5 billion single-use coffee cups are discarded globally every year. These cups are not recyclable in most markets, so they're destined for the landfill. There are currently companies partnering with coffee shops to offer a cup exchange program where the drink you order is served to you in a reusable to-go cup that is exchanged for a new reusable to-go cup on your next drink order, avoiding the need for single-use cups. Think about how many homes have been torn down in our community. How many of these homes' components have been salvaged for reuse? If a circular economy approach to home design was created, there would be value placed in making the components of our homes reusable after disassembly. When we set out to do a major remodel of our home, I carefully took the time to disassemble as much as possible to sell for reuse. I sold our entire kitchen to someone who was building their own home. Did it take time to do this? Of course. But salvaging 40 items and making $20,000 sure seemed like a better idea than simply demolishing it all and sending it to a landfill. The circular economy is a simple idea, but not necessarily easy. I've illustrated just a handful of examples of companies currently embracing the circular economy model. Which do you feel might make sense in your own life? And how can we create a movement where the majority of us embrace this new type of system? As we come out of the pandemic, we have an opportunity to reimagine everything. Implementing a new system like this at scale will take that imagination and innovation from all sectors. I am so excited to see where this future innovation will lead. My hope is that we can shift from our current take, make, waste, linear economy to a circular model where waste is eliminated. We can shift our systems and our focus to the first two R's, reduce and reuse. Thank you.